Alright, we're out here today. I'm going to give a little 1 year owner's review of my 2022 F250 Powerstroke Tremor lariat with the black pack. It's got about 8,200 miles on it, I believe it is. Let's see here. Alright. So we've got 8,500 miles on it, and overall it's been a pretty good truck. There are some things I absolutely love about it. There's also some things I absolutely hate about it since I just hopped in the cab. I'm going to start with the things that I don't like so much about, specifically the interior, and then go from there. For the price, it's a really expensive truck. I feel like there's a lot of plastic on the door panels. There's not a lot of padded, it's just a lot of hard, cheap plastic. Some kind of cheapish dash, you have a lot of plastic on the dash. But one thing that kind of bugs me is this bezel doesn't line up correctly with the plastic dash behind it. So it's just kind of a bad fit and finish, just doesn't look that nice. Another thing that's a little strange is the trailer brake control gain. So here's your slider, and for some reason they put the gain control buttons, the plus and minus, below it, so you can't even see the buttons. Just seems like a pretty strange design to hide the buttons from sight. Not a big deal, but just kind of goofy. Transfer case select, the 2 high, 4 high, 4 low, those are illuminated at night, which is great. You say, okay, cool, well, what's my transfer case in? Well, what they forgot to do is illuminate the knob. So you can see these 3 selections here, but you can't see where the knob is. So why did you even illuminate it if you're not going to let me see what my transfer case is in? Just small details like that are just, in my opinion, silly. So, kind of flimsy, the start-stop can just flop around here, a little cheap feeling, but, I do nitpick because I'm a picky guy. That's pretty much my biggest gripes with the interior. It's just not super nice. I love the big screen, 12 inches plus. The dashboards, don't have any issues there. Seems like a pretty solid truck inside. I really love the fact that it has the sliding cup holder in the middle where you can fit a full 36-ounce Yeti cup in there. And in old trucks, it's like you have them on your side, you have them on the floorboard rolling around. There's never anywhere good to put those big water cups, and this has the answer, and I love that about this. Our Expedition doesn't have those extra 2 cup holders, so we have our big bottles just rolling all over the place. Moving on from the interior to the exterior of the truck, the aluminum body panels, they're really thin and flimsy. They're kind of scary when you start pushing on them. You could really see them bowing in, but to be honest, I think all new vehicles, even if it's a steel body, it's going to have really thin, flimsy paneling, so I don't think the aluminum is a big plus or a minus. But I will say there's a lot of imperfections in this paint job. There's kind of staining behind the paint, and there's a lot of fisheye and stuff like that, which is disappointing for trucks that they're charging this much money for. So that's kind of a downside. I will say I love the looks of this black appearance package on the truck. It was really expensive. I want to say like over $4,000 just to have all the parts black, which is kind of crazy, but it really does look a lot better. So to me, I guess it was worth it. Obviously, I paid for it. So I love the Tremor package. Having that e-locker in the rear is awesome. Not just a Tremor thing, but I love the e-locker that Ford offers. And then having that limited slip diff in the front, that's kind of a game changer. I don't think anyone else has really offered that in a heavy duty truck, aside from a gas truck, obviously the Ram Power Wagon. I'm not a gas truck guy, I'm a diesel guy. I like to tow, and I just like the performance of diesels. So I love that. These trucks are really heavy. As soon as you take these things off the road, they want to get stuck. They are so heavy, they just want to sink in. So having lockers in the rear and a limited slip up front, that's really going to give me an extra peace of mind when I'm going off road, which I do, that I'm not going to get stuck. Because when these trucks weigh over 8,000 pounds, I think this one's almost 9,000, I want to say, by the time you put fuel and whatnot in it. And when they get stuck, they're not easy to get unstuck. You're going to have to call some friends, and you'd be lucky to get it out with one other truck. So not getting stuck in the first place is a big thing to me. And then, these Tremor shocks are actually really good. I've been impressed. I thought it was just going to be a gimmick and I'd want to replace them really quickly, but I will say that they're pretty good. I mean, they handle bumps well. I've taken them on dirt roads going 25, 35, 45 miles an hour, just skimming right over the washboard, and it just soaks it up. I mean, not really having any issues with that. So I like the shocks. I know some people have had issues with them clunking and failing really quickly. Mine haven't yet. Hopefully they won't. But that was kind of a welcome surprise. Another difference from the Rams with this truck is the Rams had the coil sprung rear end on the 2500s. This is leaf springs, and the big selling point on the Rams is supposed to be that coil spring suspension is better, it rides smoother, but my experience is actually the opposite, that the leaf pack on this Tremor at least has, you know, 4 or 5, maybe 6, maybe 5 springs, and then a overload on top. It has great small bump compliance, and the fact that it has a lot of leaves on the pack means that it's more progressive. So it has a little bit of small bump compliance, but then when you load it down with a lot of weight, it doesn't sag really badly, and I love it. I think it rides really excellent considering, whereas my Ram, granted it was a 2014, but it was stiff. You know, when you have a coil spring, it wasn't a progressive spring, so it was stiff through and through, and it was meant to hold, you know, close to 2,000 pounds. So when you're empty going over bumps, it did not handle them well. So I actually give Ford the win for the ride quality for sure. I think this thing rides really nice for what it is. And even on my Ram, I replaced all 4 springs, put airbags. I completely redid the suspension, and I still think this one rides just as good stock. So that's pretty sweet. Now moving on to the powertrain. I love it. I think this V8 diesel, it comes off the line really nicely, so it's really nice to drive around town. You know, the RPMs come up quickly. It's not slow and laggy comparatively to the inline 6s. And this 10-speed transmission is just leaps and bounds ahead of the 6-speed that's in the Cummins turbo diesel. You know, you just have so many more options for gears to be in. It's never going to be hunting between 2 gears on a hill. It has so many options that it can shift and be, you know, only a few hundred RPM difference, and it's always in that sweet spot, and it just tows like a monster. This truck tows just as good as my old truck did, and my old truck was a manual 6-speed, and it was a tuned diesel, so it was making some good power, and this thing tows easily as well. So that's pretty sweet. Love the powertrain, no complaints there. The big issue with these, though, is going to be when you're out of warranty and you start having issues, because the inline 6, you could work on those all day, just popping the hood. But these trucks and the Fords, my understanding is to do anything substantial on the engine, you're pulling the cab off the truck. So if you don't have a lift where you can lift your cab off your truck, you can't do it. So, you know, you're kind of stuck going to a dealer or paying someone else to do it, which will get expensive very quickly. So long term, we'll see what happens with that. But, you know, for now, I'm under warranty, so I'm not too worried about it. But I do plan to keep this truck for quite a while. I do know quite a bit about cars, and I love doing things myself and fixing my own vehicles, so it'll be interesting to see what happens or what I do and how I get around it when that time comes. But I'm not a huge fan of letting other people fix my stuff because I'm very picky. So the towing with this truck, now power wise, I said it tows great, but there is definitely a big downside to here, and it may be a Tremor specific thing. This truck has the nearly 35-inch Goodyear Duratrack tires, which I love these tires. I've had them on a truck of mine in the past, and they are, in my opinion, the best ice and snow tire for this size in the 35-inch range that you can get. I don't think there's any other tires that will outperform it. You know, if you go to something like Nito's, those Nito's are a really hard compound. They, in my experience, don't do well in the ice and snow. Toyos are pretty decent in the ice and snow, but these are just, in my opinion, the best. They're kind of more designed around handling those conditions. And we have the Mountains Tahoe here just a few hours away, so I go up there a lot, and you know, ice and snow performance is important to me. There's a really steep grade hill to get up to our cabin, and if you don't have the right equipment, you're not making it. So I always pay attention to the performance of tires. So that said, tires are great in ice and snow. They're awesome off-road tires. They look really nice. They're loud, but not extremely loud. But when you're towing, this truck gets whipped around really badly by that trailer. And our toy hauler is only 10,000 pounds loaded. It's a bumper pull. It's just it's kind of, and sometimes it gets scary when it starts getting windy. The truck gets whipped around a lot, and my Ram never did that. So it's kind of interesting. I think it's a tire issue because of the soft sidewalls on these Goodyears, but it gets dicey even with a 10,000 pound trailer. I can't even imagine towing 20,000 pounds with this truck and these tires. I think it would be terrifying to go over 50 miles an hour. I've even been driving down the road and hit some crosswinds with this, and I'm pretty confident towing, so I just keep my foot in it and hold the wheel straight and let it sway a bit. But I mean, it got to the so bad to where it started flashing in the dash saying trailer sway detected, please slow down, where it was saying like, hey, something's really going on here. And that was kind of unsettling. Like I said, not sure what it is, but it's kind of disappointing when you buy this heavy duty truck and you expect it to be this heavy duty towing truck, and it's not the most stable. So I'd be interested to hear what other people think if they have a similar truck with different tires, if theirs are towing better, or if it's kind of just a Ford issue with the suspension design in the front end, or what it is, because it's pretty odd and I'm not a fan of it. But I don't think I'm going to swap these tires out for something different because I actually really like these tires. I want the snow and ice performance and the off-road performance. I've pretty much had mud terrains or all terrains on every one of my trucks. I'm not a street tire guy, so that's kind of another one of the big downfalls. So, you know, honestly, if I had to go back and do it all over again, you know, would I stick with the Ram? Would I buy the Ford? I still think I probably would have done the same thing and moved to the Ford, just because, like I said, I really wanted to try something new. It wouldn't have felt worth it for me to buy the same truck again for twice the price just to have it 8 years newer. The big thing is going to be the powertrain, having that better engine and transmission combo that just makes it a better driving experience. That's a big plus. And one thing I didn't touch on is the cab size of these trucks. The Ford cab is substantially bigger inside, and it makes a difference. For legroom in the back is huge. The big thing actually is the seats in the back. In the Ford, you're actually leaned back and it's comfortable. In the Ram, you're sitting so straight up that your back will just be aching if you're stuck back there for more than an hour or two. So you can actually sit in the back of these trucks and you're comfortable. That makes a big difference. And then on top of that, you have a 6'10" bed. With the Ram, you're stuck with a 6'4" bed. The Ford, you get a 6'10". So pretty much all over, the Ford's feeling like a bigger truck. I think the cab's bigger on the Ford, partially because that V8's a smaller package. It's shorter, you know, 4 cylinders deep, versus the inline 6 Cummins is 6 cylinders straight back. So the dash in the Cummins is going to be pushed back towards your feet in the truck. So I think that takes away a bit of your cab space as well. But I will say, you know, that all comes as a price, or at a price, because in the Ford, the wheelbase of this truck is longer, and as soon as you get in it, it's very apparent that this thing does not have the turning radius that the Ram does. That Ram, you could whip into parking spots almost like a car. This truck, you have to really think about making your turns wide. To me, it feels like a long bed, but it's not, you know. So the wheelbase is substantially longer on this truck. So you get the extra storage space, you get the big cab, but you pay for it in maneuverability trying to park in the parking lot of the grocery store or tight spaces like that. So if you're looking for something to cruise around in the city, this is probably not the truck for you. The Ram is going to be a lot more nimble cruising around through the city. So I like the extra space. I don't mind that's harder to drive. I've been driving diesel pickups for 16 years now, so I've always had one and I'm just really used to it. It doesn't really bother me much, but just something that took me probably a month to get used to when I'm whipping into parking spots is I would misjudge it over and over again on this truck because I was so used to driving my old truck every day. So I just looked like a total goober out there trying to park this truck, brand new shiny truck, and there were people probably looking at me like, what's this guy doing? He doesn't know how to drive that thing. So it was kind of funny. But anyway, I think overall I'm still happy with this purchase. I haven't had a ton of warranty issues. You know, the 10-speed, it's finicky. Sometimes it does weird things, funky shifts. It, you know, has some shift flare, or in the morning you fire it up, drop it in gear, and it takes, you know, 3-4 seconds to build line pressure and actually engage the gear. Kind of little things like that, which, you know, no automatic transmission ever acts perfect. But I'd say overall, it does well. It's never flared on me while I'm towing, so that's good because, you know, shift flare is obviously not good. So when I'm towing, it's always been firm, tight, just a little finicky here and there, but overall, I do still love this truck. I like the way it looks. It turns heads. it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. And going from a manual to an automatic has been nice too. I don't dread traffic anymore when we're heading out of town, dragging the toy hauler, go out camping or wherever it is. So, you know, I plan on doing more reviews like this for some of the other toys I have, and maybe I'll do another one on this truck in another year just to kind of see how things are going. Thanks for tuning in to B-rad Outdoors. I look forward to putting together more cool content for you, so stay tuned and take it easy.